Let's talk about the 4 ways to speed up the growth of muscle.
Dr. Berg is not the most muscular looking guy, and some of this may be the reason why.
If you don't have enough muscle mass, let's say you're getting older and you lose your muscle, you lose your metabolism too. So you have a lot of mitochondria that helps you burn fat in your muscle.
It's one of the reasons, one of my main goals is to try to build as much muscle as I can naturally so that when I get older, your metabolism stays higher, you're healthier, you can do more things overall. And once you get that muscle, it's a lot easier to maintain it than it is to try to build it back.
There are 2 not surprising ways to increase muscle growth: high intensity exercise and the consumption of protein. You're not going to grow muscles on a vegan burger, okay, or a plant-based burger.
You will if it has protein in it. Like, they're still plant-based proteins, but you know, whatever. I would suggest meat.
You need the best source of protein, and that would be animal protein. Steak and eggs are at the top of the list.
You don't need the best source of protein, but I mean, you know, you can have some protein powders and stuff like that, protein bars, but overall you do want to get the majority of your protein from healthy foods. I've got videos showing what I typically eat in a day. A lot of it's like Greek yogurts, meats, cottage cheese, some protein powders, protein bars, stuff like that.
How much protein do you need? Anywhere between 0.8 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of weight. Now, what I mean by kilogram of weight, I'm talking about...
Now we got to start doing conversions. This is the United States, bro. 1 gram per pound of body weight is an easy way to figure this out, because most people know their weights in pounds, at least in the US, which is most of you folks watching this video. And 1 gram per pound of body weight is typically the high end of what is optimal for building muscle, but let's see what he says.
Of your kilogram of lean body muscle weight. So if you're a really big person and you have a lot of fat, you got to do this calculation on your lean body mass.
Instead of trying to do a calculation of what your lean body mass is, because most people aren't very good at actually guessing what their body fat percentage is, just shoot for, if you're like 300 pounds, well, what weight do you want to be in the end? 200 pounds? Okay, shoot for 200 grams of protein a day. What weight, or 180 pounds? 180. It's probably an easy estimation of what you would need to grow muscle adequately.
Now, if you're not into kilograms, you're into more in pounds. There's a different formula for that. I'm going to put that down below. When you're talking about grams of protein, we're not talking about the actual weight of a steak, for example. We're talking about the protein in that steak. Let's say, for example, if we talk about pounds, right? And you weigh about 185 pounds.
That's me. 183, but you know, I'll give you 2 pounds. Let's see what he says. How much protein do I need to build muscle?
That's how much lean body mass you have. That would come out to about 84 kilograms.
Okay. That's not how much lean body mass I have. I'm 185 pounds. My lean body mass, if you took all the fat away, that's probably going to be closer to like the high 160s. Because say I'm 10% right now, take away 18 pounds from what I am, and that's your lean body mass.
If we do the calculation on 0.8 grams, I would just times that times 84, and that comes out to 67 grams.
He's saying you only need 67 grams of protein at my body weight to build muscle. What is this called? How much protein is needed to build muscle?
The high range, 1.5 grams, and we do that calculation, we're talking between 67 grams of protein to 126 grams of protein.
Okay, 126 grams of protein, that is, let me do my own calculation based on pounds real quick. 126 divided by 185, that's 0.68. Pretty much anyone you look up who is actually muscular is gonna say you wanna shoot for around 0.8 on the low end to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So in this case, you'd be looking at 0.8 times 185, basically 150 to 185 grams of protein per day. So his high end is lower than what most people are going to tell you is the low end for optimally building muscle. So be aware, maybe this is part of the reason why Dr. Berg doesn't look very jacked, because he's not even getting enough protein in. Now this is probably plenty. If you're just wanting to maintain the muscle you have, I would go for at least like 100 grams, like at least 0.5 of your body weight in pounds. So for me, you know, that'd be like 95, just make it easy, call it 100 at the minimum just to maintain. But if I'm wanting to build, I'm typically shooting for 150 grams minimum a day, between that and 200, and that's gonna be adequate for optimally building as much muscle as you can. Because if you're gonna be spending all that time pushing yourself hard in the gym, you need to make sure you're eating right so that you can actually put that to good use, because you can work out all you want, but if you don't have the protein to build the muscle, it's not gonna get built. Just like if I wanna build a house, I've got tons of workers to help me with it, but if I don't have any materials to build the house, well, it's kind of a waste of time, just like you putting in the work of the gym, but you don't have the materials to build the muscle.
So what would determine if you're on the low end or the high end. Your age, how active you are, how much exercise you do, the strength of your digestive system. Like if you're 95 years old, you're probably not going to do the top highest amount of protein versus if you were an athlete at 20 years old.
If you want to build muscle, you need the protein regardless. And the older you get, it's actually more important to have a higher amount of protein to help you maintain the muscle that you have. So, I mean, your digestive system, that doesn't change how much protein you need to build muscle. We're talking about 4 surprising ways to speed up muscle growth. So whatever.
You even need to go up to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of lean body mass. Now let's get into the surprising things that can increase the speed of muscle growth.
I wonder what kind of surprising thing. Is he going to talk about steroids?
First thing on the list is creatine, right? And by the way, creatine is in foods, especially meat. But if we want to speed up the growth of muscle, we want to take it as a supplement.
Basically what creatine does is it takes ADP and converts it to ATP, and you can use it for energy. And you typically store more water, not in a bloat type way, but in your muscles, and your muscles are made up mostly of water. And so that helps you to be able to push harder, maybe get an extra rep or 2 working out than you would have gotten otherwise. So then you're able to push your body harder, which would then help you get more of a stimulus to grow muscle faster, but it's not going to be some kind of magical thing.
That is when you exercise high
I take creatine every day, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but just talking about how it works.
intensity, short duration, that is what increases the muscle growth. And so creatine allows you to do that. If you don't have enough creatine, you're not going to have the energy to work out like that, number one. And the energy that's supplying the system actually can help you grow this muscle. It allows you to do more work. I mean, if you're going to go work out and build muscles and you're tired and you don't have enough energy, it's probably not going to happen.
Creatine isn't going to give you energy and make you feel awake if you don't have a lot of energy. Like, that's what sleep is for. Make sure you're sleeping enough if you don't feel like you have enough energy to go to the gym, or make sure you're eating enough because you need to have enough calories to be able to push yourself hard. But creatine's not going to give you energy to work out.
Now, as far as how much creatine you need, if you're really serious about building muscles, I would use 20 grams for about 5 days.
Also, most people tell you don't need a front load creatine. It takes about a month for it to totally saturate, taking 5 grams a day for the average person. The bigger you are, you may want to get closer to 10 grams.
And then go down to like a maintenance dosage of 3 grams for the rest of the month. And then you would cycle to a higher amount, 20 grams for 5 days, and then cycle back to your smaller maintenance amount.
Okay, you don't need a cycle creatine. That I have never heard anyone, I've heard people say front load it to get it saturated in your body quicker, but that can also cause digestive problems, which he isn't talking about. You could get some diarrhea or something from that. 5 grams a day is just fine. And keep it the same. You don't need to cycle it up and down.
Cold therapy. Now you can do cold showers, cold immersion, cryotherapy. There's a lot of different versions of this. When you're in the cold, the body has to do something very, very unique. It has to maintain the core temperature. So it has to generate a tremendous amount of energy to do that. So to do that, you're going to generate this type of brown fat, which then will stimulate the white fat, and you're going to burn a lot of calories.
You don't burn a lot of calories. I remember some girl talked about doing cryotherapy, and she burned like 700 calories in 3 minutes or something ridiculous like that. And that does not happen.
And the burning more calories, burning more fat, and the cold therapy, both in rats and humans, increases the expression of the muscle genes. Okay, certain genes in your muscles that help the growth of muscle.
Cold therapy is great for reducing inflammation. Like, I remember a couple years ago when I was at the beach for Christmas, my dad and I went and got in the outdoor pool every morning. It was like in the low 50s, the pool water. And it was cold. The first day we only did 3 minutes, but we worked up to like 10 minutes. I think we did 15 minutes one day throughout the week. And then we would work out later in the day, usually in the evening after putting the kids down to bed. And I noticed at the end of the week that nothing hurt the whole time. I've got lower back issues and sometimes my shoulders, but none of my joints, nothing hurt. And I was working hard, like heavy deadlifts, high volume sets, squats and everything. In the whole week, nothing hurt. So it's definitely good for reducing inflammation. But because it reduces inflammation, if you do a cold plunge too close to when you work out, not necessarily before, because it can help some as long as you adequately warm up so you don't injure anything. But if you do it too close afterwards, it can actually, not actually, but it does it because it reduces inflammation. Part of what causes your muscles to grow is the stimulus, and they get inflamed and then they start repairing themselves. So if you reduce that inflammation, then they don't have the same reason to grow, essentially. They're not having to repair and fix themselves. So from what I've seen from the type of literature that's out right now is they don't recommend that you do a cold plunge within 4 hours after doing some kind of resistance training. I don't do cold plunges very often. I mean, I don't really have access to one except in the winter time and if I get in a pool. But if I'm doing it, I would probably just do it first thing in the morning, unless you're working out early in the morning. Then if you want to do it at night or something like that, because for me, it's more something that reduces the inflammation, which something I would want in the morning, and then it also really wakes you up because it's cold, and then you go on the rest of your day, and then that might make my workout better later in the day.
Well, there's something called the RNA, which is kind of like the protein factory that makes different proteins. Cold therapy increases that. Cold therapy also decreases inflammation. Now, you may have heard studies that show that
Decreases inflammation.
that cold therapy actually does not increase your muscle. It actually will shrink your muscles. That is true initially, but in the recovery phase, it will increase the muscle size.
See, that's kind of the confusing part. It's not that, I think he's saying literally like you get in the water and you're cold and things shrink up. Like your muscles aren't shrinking, you're just cold and your body's trying to warm itself up. Like if you're decreasing the inflammation that's triggering your body to repair itself and to grow stronger or bigger in muscle size, then that's not gonna help you grow the muscle in the long term in recovery, because it's making you recover too fast before your muscle adapts to that stimulus.
It's kind of like any type of stress. You can overdo it. We want intermittent type stress to the body to create some cool changes.
I will say though, for that, I was purposefully doing cold plunges every day for like 2 weeks before I went to a powerlifting competition. I noticed it didn't affect my strength because I'm not trying to make my muscles bigger when I'm training heavy sets of 1 to 3 leading into a powerlifting competition. I'm trying to reduce inflammation so that I can perform as well as possible, and I did. I went from having a back injury like 6 weeks out to where it hurt to stand up, and then I started getting back into it slowly, and then I deadlifted 500 pounds for the first time and hit a new PR at the meet. So those definitely help with inflammation, and that's not going to affect your strength if you're doing it close to those workouts, but it will affect the adaptation of your muscles growing and getting bigger.
Intermittent fasting. There's one school of thought that if you're
Intermittent fasting is not going to help you grow muscle. If anything, it's probably going to make it more difficult, because if you need to get that amount of protein in per day, it's harder to do that if you're not eating.
If you're not eating, your muscles are going to waste away. But what happens when you do intermittent fasting?
They're not going to waste away. You can definitely maintain muscle easily, and that's something I noticed when I used to be one of the intermittent fasting people. I did it like every day for a year, like 18-hour plus fasts, and I didn't make really any progress during that time of getting bigger muscular because I wasn't giving my body enough. I probably wasn't getting enough protein, and I didn't have those building blocks to build muscle.
You stimulate growth hormone. You stimulate all sorts of things that indirectly...
Okay, stimulating growth hormone, this is something I hear from the people, and I used to think the same thing about intermittent fasting, is that you're stimulating growth hormone and also autophagy, which is true. You know, you get into the 16 plus hour fasting, that type of stuff starts happening. But what these people don't talk about is that what else stimulates growth hormone is exercising and pushing yourself hard with resistance training. The same with autophagy. Your body naturally does that. The whole increasing your growth hormone and increasing autophagy just by fasting, yeah, I guess that can be beneficial if you're someone who's sedentary and just trying to lose a lot of weight, and that's gonna help boost some growth hormone because you're not exercising. But if you're exercising, you're likely going to be increasing your natural growth hormone more just from doing that.
Can potentially increase muscle through the hormone, growth hormone. Here's the catch-22. You're probably not going to grow any muscles if you're doing any type of prolonged fasting. I'm talking about just doing intermittent fasting, like 2 meals a day, not cutting your calories down, just not having the snacks.
So 2 meals a day, even based on the high end, that's around 65 grams of protein for the 185-pound person just twice a day, which isn't that difficult. What I see from a lot of people who intermittent fast is they typically don't necessarily eat healthy because it's like, oh, I've got all these calories now, I can eat a pizza. You're probably not getting 65 grams of protein from your pizzas and pastas and stuff like that you're eating. You may be within your calorie limit or even a deficit to lose fat, but it's not going to help you build muscle. And the whole snack thing.
Because intermittent fasting will also make insulin more sensitive. So by fixing insulin resistance, you can actually get more insulin to the muscle, because the snacking just kills this whole process.
What if you're snacking on protein? If I want to snack, I usually have something like a bowl of cottage cheese mixed with applesauce, which I know it sounds kind of weird, but it's actually quite good. And then a protein bar. I mean, these things have like 20 to 30 grams of protein, and it's a snack. Like, just because you have a snack, it doesn't mean it's chips and donuts. You can have a snack that is actually helping you build muscle and giving you that protein you need to make it happen.
Arginine, and it can significantly help you increase growth hormone by inhibiting another hormone called somatostatin. So arginine kind of takes the brakes off of growth hormone. They've even given children that are a bit shorter than they should be about 2.2 grams of arginine, and notice that they actually grew taller. But arginine is another surprising way to enhance the growth of muscle. But what you want to do is you want to take a bit higher amounts, between 3 to 6 grams per day on an empty stomach. And I think the best time to take it is about 30 minutes before you work out. Now, if you have not seen my other powerful video to grow muscles, I put it right here. Check it out.
Okay, so there's some good stuff in there, some that's kind of silly. I don't know really anything about arginine, but when it comes to protein, just shoot for 1 gram per pound of body weight. You don't have to do any calculations. If you're weighing yourself every day, you see how much you weigh, you know roughly what you need, and try to shoot in a range, you know, like 20 grams below that to 20 grams above. I mean, you can eat as much as you want. Your body can process protein, use it for energy, that's fine. But you want to make sure you have enough if you're trying to grow muscle. And the whole fasting thing, like, it's a lot easier to stick to a diet if you're not hungry. And there's lots of recipes and stuff I have on this channel showing high protein, low calorie options you can eat throughout the day. You don't have to feel hungry. You don't have to make yourself fast. Like he's talking about not having enough energy for your workout. A good way to make that happen is if you're fasting. You're not gonna have as much energy. You eat food that's gonna fuel you, and you eat foods that are high in protein, and that's gonna help build that muscle. So rather than having 2 60 to 80 gram of protein meals per day because you're waiting forever to eat and then binging on that stuff, now I can have 4 40 gram of protein meals and I'll feel more satiated throughout the day as I go from one meal to the other every few hours or so, rather than feeling tired when I go into my workout. That doesn't happen because you're getting what you need. You have those building blocks, and it's a lot easier to hit the protein amounts when you're getting them in smaller volumes throughout the day. It's not saying you can't do it. If you want to do intermittent fasting, that's fine. But me personally, I found that I started growing way better when I had smaller amounts of protein more often throughout the day. Snacking isn't going to hurt you if you're eating snacks that help you towards that goal. Insulin's not going to be a problem. Like, I have other videos where he talks about, oh, your insulin is what's causing you to get fat or not be able to lose weight. You have to unlock the whole insulin problem by fasting. Like, all you got to do is be in a calorie deficit. You can't break the laws of thermodynamics. Maybe an insulin resistance problem makes it harder to burn those calories, but if you move more and eat less and you get in a calorie deficit, your body's gonna lose fat. Like, you can't get around it. So there's no special thing. It's consistency. Get enough protein every day, work out hard, and that's going to do it. So hit that like button if you like this video. Let me know what you think down below. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon.